take a trip now to the Nick 10 for our Pigskin preview, and right now with me I have Coach Aaron Wichman from Freeport and the Pretzels, starting his fourth year. Does it seem like 4 years, Coach, for you down there at Freeport?
No, it definitely does not. It's moved along pretty quickly.
I remember the first time we talked to you, I think we were doing a live thing, and you called us up as you were moving into your house in Freeport. So that's been that long ago since you did that day. That was a pretty exciting day for you.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that have moved pretty quickly, not just with the teaching, but with the kids and the job and everything else the last few years. It's gone really quickly.
We talk about those 4 years now. Has that given you a chance to get your program in the way you want it? Sometimes when you come in, a little bit late like that, you're just trying to get things ready, but now you've had your start in your fourth year, and you got everything the way you want it?
I think so. I think last year was that year where we finally were out with the old and in with the new, and what kids were, the expectations were, and that's sometimes in different places takes longer than others. So this year, that's never something that we talk about anymore. The kids know what to expect. They know the coaches. They know what our goals are for the season. And so, yeah, in that regard, we're much further along.
I've been following some of the Twitter stuff that goes on at the Freeport football program, and from what I'm seeing, your kids are pretty excited about this year and seem to be very dedicated to working in the weight room a little bit.
They are. We knew that we'd have a very young team that we put out there, and actually we'll be fairly young again this year, grade-wise, but we do return a lot of guys with experience. And, last year we don't really dwell, but those kids have those memories, and they know that there's certain things where they obviously want to improve and show for the work that they've done in the summer.
I guess the one nice thing for you, though, is you got a familiar face in that backfield again, and he's had a pretty good summer at some camps, I understand, Steve McShane.
Yeah, he worked real hard in the winter, put himself in a good spot in the summer, has a lot of schools with some interest that want to see how he does when this season rolls around, and so that's motivation for him, which in turn works, for the betterment of our program as well.
And it seems like he's really taken a leadership role from some of the things I've seen on the Twitter account and things.
He is. He knows this is his last year, and he's got quite a few accomplishments already, but he'll be the first. He'd put the individual stuff aside in order for us to be more competitive and find a way to get to those 5 or 6 wins.
When you look at Steve McShane, how have you seen him develop since you've been there, since you've had him most of the time?
Well, I think this year especially, even into last November when our season concluded, he's a quiet kid by nature, but he's much more vocal, willing to step up and take a little bit more of a leadership role, which is something that we've addressed with him. And, he obviously leads by example, and his accomplishments are there for people to recognize, but he's done a much better job of trying to keep kids not necessarily in line, but motivated when they need it, and more vocal as we've gone through.
For him to be successful, you need to have a good offensive line and also a good backfield that helps him out a little bit. How have you seen that for this year so far?
Well, we have some guys back on our offensive line with our left tackle, left guard, center, right tackle. So 4 of those 5 spots are back. With our situation, a lot of those guys will eventually be on the defensive side too. So we worked real hard in the summer trying to develop some other kids and maybe not become full-time starters, but play a series or 2 here or there to rest some of those guys. But we like the guys that we have back. They've worked really hard.
Does that help to have an offensive line that's used to him? Because I know that a running back like that, he can do a lot of stuff just on his own that makes for some big yardage sometimes.
I think so, and everybody knows that Steve is back there, so I'm sure a lot of eyes that's going to be defensively goal number 1 is to stop him and to find out where he's at. So I think it helps that they have the continuity up front, those guys working together, and, then they can just let Steve do it and what he does.
You know, when you look at something like that, have you ever thought about switching his number during a game or something like that so they don't know who he is?
We could, but I'm sure it wouldn't take too long for others to find out what we did, where he's at.
Back in my younger days, I actually saw a team do that, and he ran back a kickoff like 100 yards. They took one play, but it was too late by then. But he is just a great kid for your program, been one of those keys, but you got to have a whole team, and I think that you're pretty excited this last couple of years to see how your program's starting to develop a little bit.
It is. We've taken a lot of steps. When I was hired, I told everybody I wasn't in for the quick fix necessarily, that we were going to spend a lot of time down at the lower levels with our junior tackle program and into the middle school. I think that the rapport between those programs is greater than it has been, and those kids are excited. They come out in the summer with us one night a week and get to see what the high school kids do. So, we've tried to build it from the bottom up, which takes longer, but in the end, I think we'll show a better result.
Defensively, you need a good defense, especially in the Nick 10, because Steve can score a lot of points for you, or your offense can, but if you can't stop people, it makes a long night for you as a coach, too.
It does, and that's a little bit what happened to us last year. We were young. We were fortunate enough to score some points, but then, we had a lot of games where we gave up quite a few, too. And so we worked a lot on that as a staff, actually, in the off-season, addressing where some of our weaknesses were and why. We did a lot with the staff in the off-season to make sure that some of those things that were weaknesses for us this year that, that they've been addressed.
So do you feel pretty good about your defense as you come in with people that have got a little bit of experience?
Yeah, I think the players, obviously, that we have coming back will be more comfortable. And last year on the defensive side, staff-wise, almost everybody was new. So we were trying to stay, as a staff, one day ahead of the kids, and that's never an ideal situation. No. So, having that off-season to shoot ideas around and to figure some things out is definitely to our benefit. And
you did say you'll see some kids playing both sides of the ball, too, this year?
Yeah, we will, just because we never have, since I've been here, we don't have the rosters of 50, 60, or 70 on the varsity. So just because of numbers, some of those guys will have to play on both sides. I think we're a little bit better off this year in that it'll be some more of the skill positions, and hopefully we can develop some depth along the line where we don't have to use those guys in the trenches as much.
Special teams, always a big part of any football game. How does that look for you this year?
Well, we think we have some weapons other than Steve that we can, make ourselves a threat on the special teams. I think our coverage units will be much better than they were last year. I think that, again, we have some guys that are coming back, but we have some guys also that understand how important special. It's one of those things, it's a cliche. Coaches always talk about how important it is, and then sometimes they don't give it the same amount of time that O&D get. And so that's one of the things where we think hopefully we can take advantage of some of our opponents possibly.
Yeah, I've been to a lot of games where they said, boy, I wish we'd have worked on those special teams a little more during the week.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, it settles in with the kids when it bites them in the butt, and that's, unfortunately, you never want to go through that, but that's usually when they actually learn their lesson.
And you have Harlem to start the season. Now, they're getting a turf field, but they won't have played on that yet, so they're going to come over and find out how your turf field works over there.
Yeah, I mean, it should be a great opening matchup for us. We'll see with one of those big three schools. That's kind of how we refer to them over here in Freeport.
Yep.
Right where we're at to begin with. A school that's, 2 sizes bigger than us, but at the same time, I think last year, especially in that first half, we were competitive with them, and we want to see this year if we can stretch that into all 4 quarters.
Talking about the Nick 10, I think it is starting to expand a little bit beyond the top 3 because schools like you could have a good day, and it seems like some of the other schools are starting to come up a little bit too.
I think so. I mean, Auburn is a program that everybody notices is on the rise, and Belvedere North has a very good senior class that people have been talking about for a while. Guilford had a real good run last year. So I think it is starting to maybe balance itself out just a little bit. But, to us, those big 3 are where we want to eventually try and set our standards.
And 4 years in a row, like I said before we started the interview, you're kind of the dean, one of the deans now that, you lasted a lot longer than some of the guys have.
It goes quickly. I know that. I think it takes a while, especially in football with all the different parts to it and the off season and the demands of the kids. It takes a while to actually get situated in, and I feel comfortable going into this season. I think our staff is much more comfortable, and so I think that's shown in our summer and the kids' excitement to begin here in August.
Well, thanks so much, Coach, for taking time out. We look forward to seeing Freeport this year, and good luck. And Steve McShane, hopefully he'll have a good year, and so will the rest of the kids.
Yeah, we appreciate your coverage. Thank you very much.
We've been talking to Freeport head football coach Aaron Wichman. For the StatelineSportsHub.com, I'm Dave Schmidt.